The Name on the Deed, A Betrayal in Black and White. Chapter 1, A Helping Hand in a New Land. Miami, Florida, 2020. The humid embrace of Miami was a stark contrast to the crisp, cold air of my native Kyiv, Ukraine. I was Olena Petrova, a woman in my early 50s, a recent immigrant, my heart brimming with a potent mix of fear and hope. The dream was simple, a new life for my daughter Anya and myself, far from the escalating tensions in our homeland. Anya, then in her early 20s, was a brilliant artist, but her future in Ukraine felt uncertain, stifled. I wanted more for her, a chance to truly flourish, leaving everything behind, my small apartment, my modest savings, a lifetime of memories, had been agonizing. My English was passable, but the labyrinthine complexities of American bureaucracy felt like an insurmountable wall. That's when I met Lena Volkov. Lena was a beacon of light. I met her through a Ukrainian-American community group in Sunny Isles Beach, Florida, where many of our compatriots had settled. She was a few years younger than me, vivacious, with a quick smile and an even quicker mind. She had immigrated from Odessa, Ukraine, over 15 years ago, spoke flawless English, and claimed to have extensive experience navigating the American system. She was, she assured me, a community advocate and a specialist in immigrant services. Lena became my lifeline. She offered to help with everything, applying for a social security number, navigating immigration forms, opening a bank account, even finding a small, affordable apartment in a quieter part of North Miami Beach. Her generosity felt boundless. "We immigrants must stick together, Olena," she'd often say, her eyes warm and earnest. "We help each other." I trusted her implicitly. She was fast, efficient, seemingly tireless. My limited English meant I often signed documents where she pointed, trusting her explanations implicitly. She translated complex legal jargon, filling out forms with confident strokes of her pen. "This is for your lease, Olena," she'd explain. "This for your bank account. This for your work permit." I was so overwhelmed, so grateful. I never questioned, never doubted. My gratitude outweighed my caution. Life slowly began to stabilize. Anya found a part-time job at an art gallery in Wynwood, her talent slowly gaining recognition. I found work as a seamstress, using skills I had honed in Ukraine. We were building a new life, brick by painstaking brick, and Lena was the architect of our initial stability. The biggest hurdle, and my greatest dream, was to buy a small home. Renting in Miami was expensive, and I longed for the security of owning our own place. Anya, with her growing income, and I had managed to save a substantial down payment over 2 years. I told Lena about my dream. "Oh, Olena, that's wonderful," she exclaimed, her face beaming. "You deserve a home, and I know just the real estate agent, a very good friend, also from Ukraine, and I can help you with all the paperwork for the mortgage, the closing documents. It's so complicated here, you need someone you trust." My trust in her was absolute. She was my friend, my guide, my savior in this new, overwhelming land. She found a charming, modest 2-bedroom bungalow in Hollywood, Florida, just north of Miami. It was perfect. A small garden, enough space for Anya's art supplies, and a quiet neighborhood. The price was within our reach. Lena handled everything. She connected us with the real estate agent, arranged the bank meetings, and presented me with stacks of documents for signing. "This is the mortgage application, Olena. This is the purchase agreement. This is the closing disclosure." She would point to the signature lines, explaining each document briefly in Ukrainian. I signed where she instructed, my hand aching from the sheer volume of paperwork, my heart swelling with the dream of finally owning my own piece of America. the closing day arrived in late 2022. It was a whirlwind of signatures, legal jargon, and an overwhelming sense of accomplishment. Lena was there, smiling, congratulating us. "Your new home, Olena! Congratulations!" she said, giving me a warm hug. I thanked her profusely, promising to repay her kindness 100-fold. We moved into the bungalow, Anya and I, painting the walls, tending the small garden, filling the rooms with our hopes and dreams. It was ours. Finally, a sense of peace, a profound security settled over me. For months, everything was perfect. Lena would visit, bringing small gifts, sharing tea, always interested in our progress. She never asked for repayment, simply basking in the glow of our happiness. She was the best friend I could have asked for, a true angel in my time of need. Until the letter arrived. A certified letter addressed to Lena Volkov, but to my home address. It was from the Broward County Property Appraiser's Office in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, concerning an overdue property tax bill for my house. My brow furrowed. Why would it be addressed to Lena? And an overdue bill? I had paid the mortgage every month, on time, directly from my bank account, which Lena had helped me set up and manage. A cold, creeping dread began to spread through me. It was a tiny crack in the perfect facade of my new life, a whisper of a doubt that threatened to shatter everything. The helping hand, the benevolent friend, was about to reveal a dark, chilling truth, a betrayal that would unravel the very fabric of my trust, my security, and my future in this new land. The name on the deed was about to expose a lie too devastating to comprehend. Chapter 2. The Crushing Revelation, Hollywood, Florida, was the first discordant note in the symphony of my seemingly perfect new life. The immediate confusion gave way to a cold, hard knot in my stomach. Why her name? And an overdue tax bill? I had meticulously paid my mortgage every month, directly from the bank account Lena had helped me establish. I called Lena immediately. Her voice, usually so cheerful, was suddenly clipped, evasive. "Oh, Olena, it's probably just a mistake. These government offices, they're always getting things mixed up. I'll call them, don't worry." Her dismissive tone, so unlike her usual effusive helpfulness, only intensified my unease. Days passed, then a week. Lena never called back. The knot in my stomach tightened. I went to the bank, my anxiety mounting. I asked to see the mortgage documents, the closing papers. The bank manager, a polite older woman, brought out my file. "Ms. Petrova," she said, her voice gentle, "your mortgage payments are indeed current and in good standing. But this letter," I said, showing her the tax bill addressed to Lena. "And the house. Is it really in my name?" She pulled up the property records on her computer. My heart pounded against my ribs. Her face, initially neutral, slowly creased with a puzzled frown. She clicked a few more times, then looked up at me. "According to Broward County Public Records, this property, this house, it is not in your name. It is registered under the name of Lena Volkov, and the mortgage is also exclusively in her name." The words hit me like a physical blow. The air rushed from my lungs. My vision blurred. "No," I whispered, the single word a strangled gasp. "No, that's impossible." I signed the papers. I made the down payment. "This is my house." The manager looked at me with profound sympathy. "Ms. Petrova, I'm afraid the records are clear. Lena Volkov is the legal owner of this property. Your monthly payments are going directly to her mortgage account, not to a mortgage in your name." the crushing revelation, the betrayal. The world, which had just begun to feel stable, secure, spun wildly out of control. Lena, my friend, my savior, she had stolen my home, my dream, my future. I walked out of the bank in a daze, the sunny Miami streets suddenly cold and hostile. Every memory of Lena, every act of kindness, every reassuring smile, now twisted into a grotesque mockery. Her help with documents, her specialist advice, her friendship, all a meticulously crafted deception. I rushed home, my mind racing. Anya was at work. I pulled out all the documents Lena had given me during the purchase process. The purchase agreement, the closing disclosure, the mortgage agreement. I spread them out on the kitchen table, my hands trembling. My English was better now, stronger than when I had first arrived. I meticulously, painfully went through each document, and the truth in black and white began to emerge, terrifying and undeniable. The lease agreement for my first apartment. It was a sublease, with Lena as the primary tenant, allowing her to control my housing. The bank account she helped me set up. It was a joint account, but with a clause giving her primary control and allowing her to transfer funds at will. The work permit forms, they were legitimate, but interwoven with clauses that indirectly linked my legal status to her sponsorship. And the house documents, the purchase agreement I had signed, was actually a simple rental agreement with an option to buy from Lena, not the original seller. The closing disclosure I signed was a blank page, inserted into a stack, later filled in with Lena's details. The mortgage application I filled out, believing it was for me, was a sham. She had used my financial information, my income details, to bolster her own mortgage application, while applying for the loan in her name only. My down payment had gone directly into her personal account. The depth of the deception was breathtaking. She had systematically, deliberately taken every single asset, every single step towards stability, and made it her own. She had taken advantage of my vulnerability, my trust, my limited English, weaving a web of lies so intricate, so complete, that I had walked willingly into her trap. The anger came then, hot and consuming, replacing the shock and grief, a righteous fury. How could someone do this? To a friend? To a fellow immigrant? She had preyed on my desperate hope, my gratitude, turning it into a weapon against me. Anya returned home, sensing immediately that something was terribly wrong. I laid out the documents, the letters, the undeniable proof of Lena's betrayal. Anya, usually calm and composed, erupted in a storm of tears and anger. "Mama, how could this happen? How could she do this to us?" The crushing revelation had not only stolen my home, but had shattered my faith, not just in Lena, but in the idea of a helping hand, of unconditional kindness, my dream of a new, secure life in America. So painstakingly built, now hung by a single fragile thread. The name on the deed was a stark, brutal testament to a betrayal that went far beyond mere theft. It was the theft of trust, of hope, and of a future I believed was mine. The battle for my home, my dignity, and my future had just begun. Chapter 3, The Fight for Justice, Hollywood, Florida, 2023. The crushing revelation that Lena Volkov, my supposed friend and helper, had systematically stolen my life savings and my home was a wound that festered. The anger that had replaced my initial shock now fueled a fierce determination. I would not let her get away with this. I would fight for justice, no matter how daunting the legal battle ahead. My first step was to contact an attorney specializing in immigrant fraud and real estate law. Finding the right lawyer in Miami was crucial. I sought recommendations from the Ukrainian American community, but this time with a painful new layer of skepticism. I needed someone trustworthy, someone who understood the nuances of my situation. A recent immigrant, limited English, vulnerable to exploitation. I found a compassionate and experienced lawyer, Ms. Rodriguez, at a legal aid clinic in Little Havana. She listened intently to my story, her face grim. "This is a heinous form of fraud, Ms. Petrova," she stated, her voice firm. "Preying on vulnerable immigrants is unfortunately common, but we will fight this." Ms. Rodriguez explained the complexities. Lena Volkov was the legal owner of the house. The mortgage was in her name. My only proof was my bank statements showing the down payment and monthly payments going to her, and my testimony that I believed I was buying the house for myself. Lena, no doubt, would claim these were simply rental payments, and the down payment a security deposit or gift. We needed to prove intent, prove the deception. We immediately filed a civil lawsuit against Lena Volkov, alleging fraud, unjust enrichment, and breach of contract. We also filed a police report, though Ms. Rodriguez warned that criminal cases for this type of complex fraud can be slow and difficult to prosecute. The primary battle would be in civil court. The news of the lawsuit sent ripples through the Ukrainian American community in Sunny Isles Beach. Some were shocked, disbelieving that Lena, who had helped so many, could be capable of such a betrayal. Others, who had perhaps harbored their own quiet doubts about her generosity, came forward with their own stories of questionable advice or missing funds. It became clear that I was not her only victim, though perhaps the most severely impacted. Lena, predictably, denied everything. She claimed I was a grateful tenant, that the down payment was an advanced rental payment for a long-term lease, and that my monthly mortgage payments were simply my rent. She portrayed me as an ungrateful immigrant trying to steal her property. She hired an aggressive lawyer who painted me as naive, confused, and prone to misinterpreting documents. The discovery phase of the lawsuit was grueling. We subpoenaed bank records, communication logs, and all original documents from the real estate agent and the mortgage company. Lena's lawyer fought us every step of the way, trying to obscure the paper trail. My life became consumed by the lawsuit. Every day was a reminder of the betrayal. Every legal term, a fresh wound. Anya, my daughter, became my rock. She translated complex legal documents, attended every meeting with Ms. Rodriguez, and provided unwavering emotional support. Her artistic dreams were put on hold as she navigated this devastating reality with me. One crucial piece of evidence emerged from a surprising source: an elderly Ukrainian couple, whom Lena had also helped with their immigration paperwork, came forward. They had been wary of Lena's insistence on handling all their mail. They kept a small notebook, meticulous old-world style, where they wrote down every piece of paper Lena had them sign. They remembered a document identical to the closing disclosure I had signed, but they had insisted on a copy before she filled in the blanks. Their blank copy, with my signature, became powerful evidence that Lena had presented blank or misleading forms for signature, then filled them in later for her own benefit. Another crucial breakthrough came from the real estate agent Lena had used. The agent, a well-meaning but somewhat naive woman, remembered Lena pressuring her to expedite processes, to use power of attorney for minor steps I wasn't present for, and to send all communications directly to Lena's address. We argued this showed a pattern of Lena intentionally isolating me from direct communication and control over my own affairs. The emotional toll was immense. I struggled with feelings of shame, anger, and profound sadness. How could I have been so foolish, so trusting? But Ms. Rodriguez constantly reminded me, "This is not your fault, Ms. Petrova. You were targeted because you were vulnerable. This is her crime, not your mistake." As the trial date approached, the pressure mounted. The future of my home, my financial stability, and my ability to truly build a new life in America all hinged on the outcome. The fight for justice was not just about property. It was about reclaiming my dignity, my trust, and my place in this new land. The name on the deed, Lena Volkov, was a symbol of deceit, and I was determined to overwrite it with the truth. The battle had escalated, and the courtroom loomed, promising a confrontation that would either secure my future or shatter it completely. Chapter 4. The Truth Prevails. Fort Lauderdale, Florida, 2024. The courtroom felt cold and sterile, a stark contrast to the humid warmth of the Miami sun outside. The civil trial against Lena Volkov for fraud and unjust enrichment had begun. My future, my home, everything I had worked for in America hinged on the outcome. I sat beside Miss Rodriguez, my lawyer, trying to remain calm. Lena sat across the aisle with her aggressive legal team, her face carefully composed, radiating an air of wronged innocence. It was a stark reminder of the depth of her deception. The trial was long and arduous. Weeks of testimony, cross-examinations, and legal arguments. My limited English was a constant challenge, even with a court-appointed translator. I had to relive every humiliating detail of my vulnerability, my trust, and Lena's systematic exploitation. Miss Rodriguez presented a compelling case. She meticulously laid out the paper trail. My bank statements showing the large down payment and consistent mortgage payments going directly into Lena's personal account. The original, blank closing disclosure I had signed, provided by the elderly Ukrainian couple, was a powerful piece of physical evidence that Lena had knowingly presented me with misleading documents. The real estate agent testified about Lena's unusual control over communications and her insistence on isolating me from direct contact. My testimony, though emotionally difficult, was delivered with quiet conviction. I described my journey from Kyiv, Ukraine, my desperate hope for a new life, my implicit trust in Lena, and my belief that I was purchasing my own home. I spoke of Anya's excitement, our dreams for the future. I tried to convey the depth of the betrayal, not just of money, but of friendship and trust. Lena, when she testified, maintained her facade of injured innocence. She claimed I was an ungrateful tenant, that the down payment was simply a large, non-refundable security deposit, and that my monthly payments were rent. She argued that I had misunderstood the agreements due to my English limitations, subtly shifting the blame onto me. Her lawyer painted her as a generous benefactor, attempting to help a fellow immigrant, now unjustly accused. The cross-examination by Lena's lawyer was brutal. He attacked my credibility, questioned my memory, implied I was trying to extort money from a kind benefactor. "Miss Petrova, isn't it true that you simply misunderstood the terms? That Miss Volkov was merely trying to help you find an affordable rental?" "No," I stated firmly, my voice unwavering despite the knot of fear in my stomach. "She told me I was buying a home. She showed me the house. She said it was mine. I trusted her." The key to our victory came from the digital forensics expert hired by Miss Rodriguez. We had managed to retrieve old text messages and emails between Lena and the real estate agent from the agent's archived files. In these communications, Lena explicitly discussed using my financial information to secure the mortgage, referring to me as the tenant who thinks she's buying, and discussing ways to minimize her direct involvement. To avoid me discovering the truth, these messages were the smoking gun, proving Lena's clear intent to deceive. The judge, a seasoned and discerning professional, listened to all the evidence, carefully weighing the testimonies and documents. She retired for deliberation. The wait was excruciating. Anya and I sat together, holding hands, our future hanging precariously in the balance. Then the verdict came. The judge found in my favor. She ruled that Lena Volkov had indeed engaged in a systematic and deliberate pattern of fraud, preying on my vulnerability and limited English proficiency. She acknowledged the overwhelming evidence of my payments, Lena's deceptive practices, and the clear intent to defraud as revealed in the digital communications. The judgment awarded me full legal ownership of the house in Hollywood, Florida, by transferring the deed from Lena Volkov to Olena Petrova. It also ordered Lena to pay me compensatory damages for emotional distress, legal fees, and any other financial losses incurred. It was a complete victory. A wave of profound relief washed over me, so intense it brought tears to my eyes. Anya hugged me, sobbing with joy and relief. We had won. Justice had prevailed. The truth, finally, had prevailed. Lena Volkov's carefully constructed world of deception crumbled around her. Her reputation in the community was shattered. She was not just exposed in court, but in the very community she had so shamelessly exploited. The name on the deed was now mine. My home, my future, reclaimed. The truth had finally prevailed, carving a path towards a new, honest beginning in this new land. The nightmare was over, and the long road to true healing could finally begin. Chapter 5. Rebuilding and Reconciliation. Hollywood, Florida, 2024. The judge's verdict was a landmark victory, not just for me, Olena Petrova, but for every vulnerable immigrant who had been preyed upon. The immediate aftermath was a whirlwind of paperwork to officially transfer the deed to my name, to ensure all legalities were in order. The house, finally, truly, was mine. The financial compensation ordered by the court helped to cover the extensive legal fees and allowed Anya and me to finally breathe a sigh of relief. Lena Volkov, stripped of her ill-gotten gains and facing a ruined reputation, disappeared from the Miami area. The community, once divided, largely rallied behind me, horrified by the extent of her betrayal. The victory, though profound, was not without its scars. The emotional toll of the fraud and the grueling lawsuit was immense. I struggled with lingering trust issues, a constant hyper-awareness of legal documents, and the painful memory of Lena's calculated cruelty. Anya, too, carried the weight of the experience, though she showed incredible resilience. We both sought counseling to process the trauma. It was a slow, deliberate process of rebuilding trust, first in ourselves, then in the world around us. My lawyer, Miss Rodriguez, continued to be a source of strength and guidance, even after the case was won. She became more than just a lawyer. She became a trusted friend, a testament to the fact that genuine help could exist. My relationship with Anya deepened immeasurably. She had stood by me through every agonizing step, her strength mirroring my own. We painted the house together, not just with new colors, but with a renewed sense of purpose, of ownership, of a future we had fought for. Anya finally returned to her art with a fierce passion, finding new depth in her work, transforming her pain into powerful expressions of resilience and hope. She eventually opened her own small art studio in Wynwood, a testament to her unwavering spirit. I, too, found a new calling, the experience of navigating the complex legal system, of feeling vulnerable and then empowered, ignited a desire to help others like me. I started volunteering at the very legal aid clinic where I had found Miss Rodriguez, using my now stronger English and my painful experience to guide other immigrants through bureaucratic hurdles. I could translate, I could explain, and most importantly, I could empathize. I became an unofficial advocate, a helping hand, but one based on genuine compassion, not deceit. My story, the name on the deed as it became known in hushed tones in the immigrant community, became a cautionary tale, but also a story of hope. It educated others about the dangers of unchecked trust and the importance of seeking independent legal counsel. It empowered people to ask questions, to demand clarity, to protect themselves. Over time, the raw pain of the betrayal began to fade, replaced by a profound sense of gratitude and resilience. My home in Hollywood, Florida, was no longer just a house. It was a fortress of my own making, built on the solid ground of truth and hard-won justice. The incident with Lena Volkov, once a devastating blow, ultimately transformed me. It stripped away my naivety, forced me to confront my own vulnerability, and ultimately made me stronger, more self-reliant, and fiercely determined to create a life of integrity. The name on the deed was now Olena Petrova, a name that signified not just ownership of property, but ownership of my own narrative, my own strength, my own future. The betrayal in the end had forged a new path, a path of service and profound understanding, proving that even the darkest experiences can become the foundation for a life of purpose and true reconciliation. Not with my betrayer, but with myself, and with the challenging yet ultimately rewarding reality of my new life in America. My journey from trusting newcomer to empowered advocate was complete, a testament to the enduring human spirit.